Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. So welcome to the first episode of year 76. So it's time to get some of our fields planted. We are just at the temperature. 43 is, I think, the minimum that we can have. So let me take a look just to be certain. Yep. So we can't get any of the fields that we would do with hemp or anything like that done until tomorrow at the earliest. And given how slow the temperature's coming up, yesterday was 27 for soil temp, so the ground was still frozen. Only so much we can do. So let's see. I know I started plowing a bit. So I've got to do that before those fields get going. I should be able to see the plow texture, because basically it's the ones after the hemp that need plowing. The other ones do not, but I can't do anything with those other than they require some lime, I think. So yeah, that part is what I've plowed over on 29. There we go. Now it filled it out. Sometimes further away, until the map has a chance to update, it'll always show fully across the map that everything needs plowing. So you do need to wait a bit and just make sure that everything is actually in need of plowing before you go ahead and spend your time doing it. And usually, as you go along for things like this, it will update as you are near it. So here we go. I know I lined up with this edge to start, so I'm going to have to kind of recalibrate myself there to get everything to line up. So sometimes, yeah, if you got to move it a long way, it's a little quicker to hit the Alt Home and have it pop over and then move, but I don't know why. I just decided I'd just try to move it today. So sorry for the long delay in getting things over. And there we go. That's not quite right, but I guess I don't want to miss any, so let me move it a bit. And I think we're okay. So we swing out a little wider so I can get everything lined up. And then once the plow unfolds, I should be good to go. Obviously I have to lower it down still. There we go. And away we go. Alright, so yeah, my first order of business is to get things plowed. Then I believe I'm going to have to, at some point, lime, but I might go ahead and get the seeds in the ground first. And, just have that growth going, because lime can happen at any point in the growth cycle. It just needs to happen before harvest, as a reminder. So it's not as if I'm required to go in a certain sequence with that. So it's been a relatively quiet off season. Again, kind of life in general is back to normal. So I've had less time overall to be doing any kind of simming, but getting in things where I can. Spent a little bit time on American Truck Simulator, spent a bit more time in FS22, looking at some things as they've come out, playing around with a new series I started on a new mod map that I'm hoping will be fun for a bit at least. So we'll see where that takes us. So I've worked on getting some material for a couple episodes there, and that's kind of been the time away. So, obviously last time I was here was winter 1, when I was trying to harvest the hemp that we're going to plow under here at some point in a bit this morning. And so it's not been that many days. It's been maybe 4 or 5. So yeah, we'll see what kind of progress we can make, but certainly, the challenge is going to be this year compared to maybe the last couple, where I've had a little bit more time because of just a little bit of easing of real life. I'm back into the general swing of things where I've got significantly less time, more than likely, to devote to any of this, and so I'm going to have to make some choices on what I do. So at this point my intent still is to kind of continue with these fields the way they are now, a little bit off kilter, but basically still do one crop per in-game year on a field at most. So I'm definitely not going to do what I did last year here, where I kind of created a double cropping situation for myself that ultimately was not successful, in that I had half a field of hemp that I had to leave in the ground because the weather wouldn't cooperate. Not that that wouldn't have happened and that I wouldn't have had stuff left had it been a normal process, but it would have certainly been kind of less painful than it was, because if you've watched the videos of the harvest there, it definitely took a toll on my mental state about how excited I was about the game at that point. But I'm definitely ready to go again now that I've had a few days away from the farm and things seem to be a little bit reset, and I'm ready to keep moving along. But I also want to be realistic that because I've got a little bit more work here with needing to plow and at some point needing to lime, that's obviously going to be time that it takes to do some things that I only have to take every 3 or 4 in-game years. So, or I think it's mainly based on the number of harvests, but that's why, once again, if you're double cropping, you start hitting those things quicker. But so the intent would be here to, do some sort of likely cereal. I'm going to take a look at the crop rotation and maybe play around with a few things again. Because I'm thinking maybe wheat this year, but still with likely no baling happening. And I know that's probably one thing I can do, because if I think back over the time I've been sharing FSN here on my channel, I don't know that I've done any baling. So I do it once in a while, just kind of when the mood strikes, but I'm just not sure that this year's the year. I may want to give myself a little bit of a breather. And the difference here is now, at this point, I've got, 4 fields here that will be working with grain, where next year I'll just have 3, because I'll have 89, 97, and 98 are the ones that are going to get onto the likely the hemp cycle. And I say likely because, once again, I'm still kind of fluid in my head about, am I going to continue with that? Because unlike last time where it just was, hey, yeah, let's do it, I now know the massive amount of supplies I'm going to need, and basically we just replenished all those supplies during the live stream for the winter that I did. And it doesn't take a huge amount of time to fill everything back up again, but it is money. And as I've looked at the finances, I haven't sold the hemp yet, but as I've looked at what prices were in the end of year 75, I'll have to take a look at where they sit in the spring now and see if they've increased. There was not a massive amount of profit compared to running, say, cotton on the fields that I'm aware of. Now, I haven't spent a lot of time in the off-season kind of looking at that. As I said, I really felt a little burned out on Misty Hills, and before I created a situation where I felt I wanted to take a year off or something just to get the excitement back, I really stayed away from anything that had to do with it, including the spreadsheet. So I had peeked at it at one point, and if I had sold at the price that was available at that point, I would have made about $500,000 profit on what I had pulled off, and that really was somewhat in line with what I would get with, say, cotton, that I think had about 700 or 800,000 profit, but that was across all the fields. So what I didn't have the time yet, or to take the time to do, was figure out, given that I had only partial acreage in hemp, what it really looked like. So I'm kind of manually going to figure out the profit per, I guess I have the profit per acre, so I'm going to take a look at that and just make sure that I understand what it looks like to try to determine, because I may simply then go ahead and just put cotton in on those fields, knowing that the seed requirement's lower, that it just got less volume, so there's less bales to pick up, and that may just become the standard, and I may just do nothing but cotton on that side of the equation. Which, gets us back, just like this conversation is repetitive, gets us back to the reality of farming and FSN, that not that you get into a rut, but you get into what works best, and it's pretty hard to justify when, in essence, you're working and you're doing work on the fields to spend your time doing something that knowingly is less worthwhile from a profit standpoint, because that's the ultimate measure, than something else. So, putting in hemp was an experiment because I'd never done it, but now that I've done it, now that I have the information, if I determine that cotton is just as good, or perhaps even a little bit better, there's not really any smart reason to spend my time doing hemp. You know, and certainly there is a possibility that I may just decide I'm going to do that because I want to be looking at something different. But in the end, the mechanics of hemp versus cotton are similar other than the quantity of things I need to use to do them. It's not as if there's different steps or different results. And it's similar to my choice here of, alright, I'm changing up from oats because I've done oats for a little while. Let's do a different grain. But the profit point of all of those grains are very close. They're, you know, a few $100s per acre difference, and it's not substantial enough that it truly matters what I plant. So that at least makes me more comfortable just saying, you know, and again, I'm thinking maybe I'll do barley because I haven't done barley in a long, long time. I've done wheat more recently than I've done barley. I just know right now I'm not doing rye in case I get the idea to bale, because it creates more straw, and so there will be more volume of bales, and therefore it'll take more time. So, although now as I say that, with the field configuration I have, if I was to do rye, this would be the field configuration I would use, because all my stores are mainly down here. Well, I guess I can do some stores up along the edge of 97. I have places for it there. But with my stores down here, it's just easier to store everything. So all of that discussion to really say, I don't know. I just know right now these fields need to be plowed, and so that's where I'm going to focus my energy, and I'm going to keep working at that until that gets done. So I'll see you in a bit. finishing up the fields here. I spent a few hours this morning and a couple more hours here this evening getting everything done. So again, a good amount of work, but that's kind of typical for what we need to do to keep the farm running. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and I think I'm going to start on the lime and just try to get that done. I'm just going to verify that I do in fact need to get that done, but I'm pretty sure I do. I know I need to do it somewhere. It's just a matter of, is this the somewhere? May not be these fields, because right now this appears to be good. I'm also wondering if I had limed them already before I plowed them, which I certainly could do, but I would think then they'd be white. So I'm gonna have to take a look, because I was pretty sure I did need to put some lime down. And maybe it'll trigger it after I plant, because plowing really doesn't change the state there in that way. But anyway, I'll check on 29 and 30 when I get over there. I did notice on the field south here of 86, and yeah, you can see them up there. I am getting a few weeds that are sprouting, so you can see some green ones there. So unfortunately, yeah, my run over into the fields did in fact cause me an issue. So let me see. Yeah, so I might be okay. Oh, interesting. Well, that's going to make things more entertaining, that's for sure. Because now we have outdated data on these fields, which means I need to collect soil samples and get those sent off. But not for what I grew. Well, that's going to make things very interesting for certain. So yeah, so that would certainly mean, that would explain why I can't get a good reading here. But these fields are not showing outdated data, so they should be giving me something. And I know at times, sometimes it just took a bit of kind of being on the field, and then suddenly it went from good to bad. So as ridiculous as it sounds, that's kind of what I'm waiting on. I mean, it is green. It's interesting that these have outdated data, but these don't. Because I was pretty sure I did all my fields at once, but maybe these got purchased at a second point. Alright, so at this point, it really isn't looking like I need lime. So yeah, I'm going to reset the values here, since these are fresh fields, and then I need to get to the yield. Alright, so I already did clear the yield. So definitely getting me a little confused as I have these fields kind of off cycle. It was a little easier when the entire farm was kind of working together. But let me go ahead and get myself repaired and topped off here to start with. And I've got maybe 30 to 45 more minutes that I'm going to spend in here for now. I may pop on in the evening, at night, one more time. But at this point, it looks like I just need to get the samples off and going.